Okay, awesome. So I'm so glad I'm here. How is the conference going for you guys? Good?
Good.
Thus far? Okay, awesome. I had a really rough start, to be honest with you. I left in haste. I came over here, and this morning, and I'm sitting, it's really good. This morning I discovered that I forgot my belt. So I had an unexpected stop to Target in the morning, and I got my belt, which is good. Good for all of us, especially me. But if I add up the Uber fares and the Target cost for the belt, I probably could have bought one at Gucci at the airport, right? So anyhow, great to meet you. I do have a couple of note cards here as well, which I know is not the greatest speaker etiquette, but I have a lot of important things to share, so I want to make sure I don't forget anything. Really quickly, I'll cover 3 things with you. I'll tell you quickly how I got started in this business and what I'm doing. Then we'll talk about talent discovery, which is the function that I'm leading. And then I'll give you like 7 or so tips that hopefully inspire you to maybe do something similar, or perhaps you can steal from it a little bit and kind of make it your own. Awesome. Oh, and before this slide, there was a picture of Munich, which is my hometown. So starting with that, I grew up in Munich. I came to the US when I was 18, and then met my wife, who is American here in the Boston area. And then I spent really my entire career in talent acquisition. I started first in the agency world, and then sort of migrated over to the startup world doing in-house recruiting. And then the last startup that I was with in Boston got acquired by Mastercard, and that's how I sort of came to a big company, which I never thought I would, but here I am, and it has been a really nice ride.
Good things about Mastercard.
You here? That's awesome.
Like the culture.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. That's really good to hear. So let's look at talent discovery. So we have this fancy headline here, what it is. But essentially, we had a little bit of a problem at Mastercard just around when COVID started. And the issue was that we had a lot of recruiting needs. We filled 10,000 positions that year. And just to put that in perspective, we have currently about 36,000 employees globally, so a pretty big scale for us at least, right? And that was one problem. We had a lot of hiring needs. The second issue was that we had a really robust but probably slightly outdated recruiting method in place. We had mostly full cycle recruiters on board that were all very good, but at the speed at which we had to hire, we just couldn't really keep up. So it wasn't super scalable. And then the third issue was we have a really good brand, and a lot of people actually checked us out online and went to our career site, but we had a really high bounce rate. And what that means is people came to the career site, and the minute they landed there, they said, "Thank you, I'm good," and they left, right? And so we had interest in Mastercard, but we couldn't convert that interest into applicants. So those were the 3 issues that were sort of plaguing us. And then we said, okay, what could we do different? And we started a top-of-funnel talent discovery team. And that, to us, is basically a combination of direct talent sourcing, recruitment marketing, paid talent attraction, which is really recruitment marketing, but paid ads. And then we also started out an alumni network. So think of anything and everything that's top of funnel. And our goal was really to, hey, let's make as much noise in the marketplace as possible, get people to notice us, nurture that talent, and hopefully over time convert that talent into applicants and hires. So it's a little bit of an awkward setup. So the first point here is, and if you have any recruiting experience, like especially in a larger company, when the rec opens up, it's often too late already, right? Because you feel like, oh my God, it took so long to get the rec approved, and then the rec is approved, and then we start to post it, and then we look at those applications, and then we have the recruiters jump on LinkedIn. It just seemed all too slow, and how could we make it faster? And this is one way how you can make it faster. The second piece, everybody is findable. So if you know your internal marketplace, you know who your employees are, what skills they have, hopefully, you know, what job titles they have. And really the same is true for the external marketplace. So the thinking really is that, hey, you have this internal marketplace and your internal talent, but you really, in today's age, can duplicate that externally as well, because everybody is findable. Yes, there might be some people that you can't find, but truly, if you want to find somebody, probably there's a way to do that. All right, next one. The next two are really related, and I really love those. If you learn how to operate in this mode, you will be equipped to have talent advisory discussions that are kind of at the next level, which is really cool. And I'll give you one example, a couple of examples. One, a few years ago, we had a team coming to us that said, hey, we're looking for a cloud architect in Prague, in the Czech Republic. And the manager was very specific, saying, hey, I have a really mostly or really all male team, and I really would like to hire a woman. And we were able to instantly flip that conversation and say, great, there are 143 cloud architects in Prague, and 12 of them are women. And like he almost fell off his chair because it was such powerful insights. And what's good to know about this is that this particular team tends to interview somewhere around 20 candidates. So if you're looking to hire a diverse candidate, you don't even have enough leads. Even if everybody's interested, there's chances you will blow through all those leads, and then what? Another good example is we do a lot of hiring in Dublin, and again, we proactively identified, preemptively, before the regs got approved, all the software engineers that have a Java programming background. There are about 1,200 people like this in Dublin. We know them all. We have them all indexed. We follow them. We reach out to them. We know them all. We also know how many other companies are hiring Java developers, and we can have a really good discussion about demand and supply. So at its peak, again during COVID, there was basically one job opening for every single candidate. You just don't have enough talent to fill the roles that you're trying to fill quickly. And again, we only knew that is because we had the data up front. So really compelling arguments to kind of see if you can stand up something like this or like this. All right, let's go to the next one. So there are 7 steps. I'll go through some of them. May not apply to you. Others, again, look at this guidance here through the lens of a big company versus small company. It kind of changes a little bit how you would potentially approach this. Alrighty, a shift in mindset. Okay, so this is a good one. First of all, super proactive, and always think of your sort of career ecosystem, internal talent, and knowing that there is a mirror of that outside, but it's probably a larger pool. And all these people externally, like the way we look at them, they're all part of our career ecosystem. They just don't know it yet. But we sort of look at them and say, hey, these are really cool candidates that we would love to engage with. The second piece, it's always on, rec or no rec. We just do this preemptively. Even if you don't have a rec, you probably have a good idea what type of roles you will fill next year, right? And if you do this smart and you use the right technology, and obviously we talk a lot about AI, it's really not that time consuming either. It really can be done. And then the last thing is, we are very interested in creating sort of a multi-touch point experience for the candidate. So traditionally, they may see your career site and then they get in-mails from recruiters. From our standpoint, it doesn't really matter what pings they get, as long as we do touch them often. Again, if you have sort of a marketing background or are interested in it, it may take 20 or 50 or even more impressions before somebody even notices you. So in the past, mostly in-mails, not much else. Now we're very much focused on in-mails, email campaigns, social campaigns, inviting people to events, sharing knowledge, creating those multiple touch points. Okay, cool. Okay, this one is important as well. So, what is your employee value proposition? It's super critical that you kind of look at that before you start this campaign, especially if you start reaching out to people. what makes you special? And it needs to be more than good benefits because everybody has good benefits, or at least so they say, right? So when I was at the company that was acquired at from Mastercard, the company was called Session M. We really didn't have an EVP, but we needed one. And ours was super short. It was basically, hey, we have problems and we need people to help fix them. So if you like problems, come over, join us. It was super, super simple. And engineers really loved it and gravitated towards that. So we were transparent. We didn't do any research. We just said, hey, this resonates well, and it's kind of what we went with. At Mastercard, it's a little bit different. We have some funding, so we hired a firm. We did a ton of research. We really know what our sort of 4 core pillars are, and we pitched that. But it's important that you know what your EVP is, and then make it super sticky and compelling. Like somebody should know right away, ooh, like that's different. That's kind of cool. Tell me more. And then the last thing is, and this is easily overlooked, right? It needs to be true and it needs to be integrated. The worst thing is if we stick our neck out and say, hey, come to Mastercard, would be if people then join, and then the onboarding experience and everything else just falls apart and it's not succinct and the same. So we're really trying to be super intentional to make sure that what we pitch is really true. All right, amazing.
I have a question for you.
Oh, yeah.
It kind of dives deeper into the EVP, but I find sometimes too is a cultural fit can be really a big, it's hard because people don't know before coming, unless you know a bunch of people that work in a company, you really don't know if you're going to land well in a culture, in an organization.
Yeah.
In recruiting, how can you help, I guess, enable that? Do you have any ideas around that, of how that plays a role too?
Yeah.
Besides the EVP, but.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, there's a lot that we can do as far as how we present ourselves, right? There's a lot of information on the career side. We try to be super intentional about sort of pushing out what we feel speaks best to our core values, and then somebody can read that. But ultimately, and it's funny to say this in the age of AI and automation, but it does come down to that human moment when the recruiter actually has that conversation with talent. And the best way to do that is just lead with complete transparency and be super honest. Like at Session M, that startup that I was talking about, we just said, honestly, this place is tough. Like there's a lot of stuff we haven't figured out yet.
Yeah.
If you really enjoy rigid, well-organized structures in workplaces, like this is just not going to be for you.
Yeah.
But if your eyes light up when there's a problem, you're like, cool, I can help solve it. Like this is a good place for you. So it's that, like one of the things at Mastercard that it's a great culture, and I'm glad you heard about it. But it has a flip side to it. Like me coming from the startup world, I was used to moving super fast, making decisions, being crazy agile, and being in a bigger company, especially Mastercard, super highly matrixed. You need to get buy-in, you need to run things by people, and you need to like that or develop an enjoyment for that. So, again, leading with transparency is just so critical.
You know what I love to say? I think I got this at a conference somewhere along my road, but when either a manager says to me, which I get this all the time, you ever work with people in New England, they're very set in their ways. I need someone who's going to fit into our culture. And I always say, I think you need somebody who's going to add to your culture.
Yeah.
And so then I shifted that around with candidates, because you know how sometimes when you're doing like a phone screen, you're just very generic, and someone's like, well, I just want to fit into the culture.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean to you? Because it's such a broad thing. And then often I'll say now, we want someone who will add to our culture.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I know fit is important, but
Yeah.
there's the other aspect of adding, and it just flips. It works better with hiring
Yeah.
managers who are so set.
Yeah.
They only want someone who's going to fit it, and I'm like, what does that mean? You want all white men with beards? Because that's what you have now. Or do you want,
Yeah.
It's like, I like to really.
Because sometimes you want a disruptor.
Yeah,
Intentionally for
Yes.
certain
Yeah.
areas.
External perspective.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's a really fun way to flip that fit
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Managers
I
are
think,
like, I got to
too,
fit.
though, it's something like you said, you're a great example. Coming from a startup environment,
Mm-hmm.
going to a highly matrix organization, that's not for everybody. And I think
Yes.
you're really, or going the opposite way. Coming from
Mm-hmm.
a highly matrix organization into a startup environment, they're
Totally.
just very different, right?
100%.
So yeah, and I think you hopefully the candidate's eyes wide open going into that, but I think some just like the job or the company,
Yeah,
you
for
kind of
sure.
go blind sometimes. So.
Yeah. Now, and the culture ad thing is a really good example. I had it earlier on the slides. I said, if you lead with these insights, you can actually decipher if you have a talent acquisition problem or if you have actually a hiring problem. And there's a little bit of a difference, right? Like I can supply you all the talent that you want, but if you can't convert that talent, or you're not articulate in terms of what you need, or you're not flexible in terms of what skills you're considering, you might have a hiring problem. I can keep finding talent, but if you lead with these insights, you can also say, we're going to run out. Like talent is finite, especially if you want to hire in a certain geographic location. Like the market is kind of what it is.
Right.
So it's not a talent acquisition problem as much as, hey, we actually have a hiring issue here. So, okay, super cool. You will need technology to help you here, right? Primarily, how do you capture these leads? And then how do you engage with those leads? And it doesn't have to be a super expensive solution. It could be a solution that you actually have, in place already. In our particular case, we were a little bit lucky at Mastercard when we started. When I got there, there was nothing in place. There was no sourcing team, no recruitment marketing team. There were just these full cycle recruiters. But there was a old talent CRM that they bought many years ago, and that was just kind of sitting there collecting dust, not being used. So we kind of brushed off that dust and said, like, hey, we had no budget. It was like, what value can we get out of this tool? And the one piece of value that we did get out is that we were able to create a really compelling lead generation form, which was basically our landing page that we used to attract people to our talent community. So even though we had still a very basic career site that a lot of people left from, we now had an option for them to engage with beyond applying for a job. So we could essentially say, hey, check out these jobs. And it was connected to Workday. It was not the greatest experience. And if timing is not right or you don't see anything you like, hey, join our talent community. And we started to capture some of these leads, which was super helpful. And you can do the same really. You can even get started in LinkedIn Recruiter if you have access to it, right? Like there is a way that you can build pipelines and engage talent. So the technology, yes, we have upgraded since then and we have other tools, which is awesome, but you don't need those tools to get started for sure.
I'm curious, did you track the conversion rate in terms of the talent community and then, potentially then joining the organization?
Yes.
Yeah. And,
Like this is the other thing, right?
Yeah.
This sort of methodology makes you so proactive. And from day one, we said, you know what? People will ask us eventually, hey, is this working? So we said, we're going to measure everything we can measure. If people want it or not, we're just going to see if we can measure. And if we can't, and if we can't measure, we'll say so. And we'll tell them, well, the reason we can't measure is because of this and this and that reason. And this is what needs to be true to measure it. So we very early on started this sort of incredibly comprehensive metrics exercise where we measured everything. And it's a really good fun fact, actually, which is good to share. And talent communities are nothing new. A lot of other companies have done it. But the talent, if you are in the talent community, you are 6 times more likely to get hired at Mastercard than if you're not. And
Internally or externally?
Externally.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you apply and not join the talent community versus you apply and also join the talent community, over time, the conversions are very compelling. And you can kind of guess why that is. But I think one of the reasons is that people are more vested in their brand. They start following us. They start learning about us. They lean more in. And then most applicants apply multiple times. So by the time they apply the second or third time, they know so much more. And then voila, right? When they show up to the interview, they are so much better prepared. They can actually speak the right language with a hiring manager, and you click better. There's a little bit of speculation here. But the data shows that the talent community members convert way better, which is really good. Where am I here? Oh, I think tech stack. I think we just, we talked about this. Okay, MVP. So this is sort of, what we mean by that is, your minimum viable product, like your first version of this. You don't have to nail this and make this super extraordinary, extravagant. But start somewhere, and I would start small. So at Mastercard, when we started, we knew 4 or 5 job families where we did a lot of hiring in. But the one lowest hanging fruit for us was software engineers. We just knew we needed a lot of them in certain locations. So we started with that, build out those pipelines proactively, preemptively, just like how I explained earlier. And then we were very intentional what experience we wanted to create for that talent. The last thing we wanted to do is, hey, come and apply, because we may not have had the right role open for them. So we were very intentional to create an experience that would add some sort of job search value to the members of our talent community. So anybody that we pipelined, that we engaged with, we steered to our career site, specifically our blog section, where we have a lot of tips on how to spruce up your resume, how to update your LinkedIn profile, how to add certain skills and keywords to your resume so you have a better chance of being captured. And that really worked. So we didn't promise a job. We didn't say apply. The modern consumer is so smart and sophisticated. Like, they'll apply when they're ready. You don't really have to force them, right? But if they see what they like and get excited about it, that's sort of the position that we wanted to put ourselves in. Alrighty, sorry, I should have had my laptop with me. Okay, then how do you activate this, right? This was a new approach within Mastercard, and we did get some resistance at first. So we went on roadshows, both within talent acquisition, within HR, and to the business as well. And when we got in front of people and explained it to them, they all kind of got it. And then surprisingly, what was our biggest obstacle was actually the adoption within talent acquisition. And the reason being is that this was new, and there was a little bit of this sense, hey, here's TA and here's talent discovery. And you guys are this new and shiny object, that organization that's getting a lot of attention, and you're showing some successes, which was great. So we very quickly realized this needs to be a co-building exercise, and we are not talent discovery, we are a talent discovery capability within talent acquisition. And once we sort of got together as a team, then we really took off, and we got a lot of buy-in, and then it was a success. But I won't lie, the first 18 months were difficult because we did get a lot of resistance from our peers, which we thought wouldn't be an issue at all. But it makes sense, right? Like, who gets credit, and was I responsible for this hire, or you, or it was just more rigid, conventional thinking. Good.
How did you get people to your road shows?
We just went to them.
Oh, you mean sorry,
Yeah.
You were not really doing like a job fair.
No, we did both. So this was during COVID, right? So
Okay.
virtually we invited people to say, hey, we have this new thing that we're doing, come,
Gotcha.
and we sort of organized these virtual seminars. And then as COVID kind of went away, we actually went in person to certain offices, and we actually showed hiring managers how this works and got their feedback and got them excited about it.
Oh, I see. That was your internal people. Okay. I was
Yes.
thinking you were doing external.
Oh, no, external, no.
Okay.
Not like I'm doing it right now.
Yeah.
So, yes,
Okay,
awesome.
sorry.
Item on the next one? All right, so we got this. This might not be as, depending a little bit on how big the companies that you're working at. Like, you probably know stories there, but as you introduce AI and more advanced automations that are tied to these capabilities, your business will have a strong interest in what it is that you're doing and how does this AI work, and are there governance implications, and is this risky? So this was one of those moments where we had to become very good at building partnerships, and I spent a good amount of my time meeting with legal, with data privacy, with AI governance, and just explain to them, A, what talent acquisition does, how things have changed, and how this technology is helping us. And the other thing is, and I had to learn this the hard way because, again, coming from the startup world, I was more like, we are doing this is going to be exciting. But not everybody saw it that way, right? So I had to get very good at, our team had to get very good at leaning in, being super curious, hey, like data privacy, what are you trying to avoid? Like, what is your concern? And we had to get used to, or teach them how to ask us, like, what are you trying to achieve, right? So striking that balance. Some very interesting discussions that we had, but we're making really good progress. And I think the general AI landscape is helping us. It's here. It's happening. If we don't jump on and embrace that technology, we'll be left behind. So I think the time is kind of helping us here. Alrighty. Okay, how are we doing for time? I don't have any.
We're good.
Are we good?
30?
We're done? 5? Okay, super fast. I'll really hustle through these. The other thing is, if you start sort of adopting something similar, or you try to build something, you have such a big advantage now because there are so many advanced automations that you can take advantage of. Think of the art of possible. There could be this world where you're creating these amazing experiences through automations, and then that will free up, lots of potential within your talent acquisition team to actually have those true human moments that matter more or matter the most, right? So you can kind of, if you look forward a little bit, you build out this sort of methodology, you tie it to the right automations. It's incredibly powerful. Good. We had great success with it. I'm really proud of the Mastercard talent acquisition team for sort of embracing this and activating it. What has the outcome been? We started with really just a few thousand members in our talent community, and now we have 2 million members in the talent community, and it's producing annually 2,000 hires. So super exciting, lots of potential, and thank you so much for listening to me, and hopefully this was helpful. But happy to answer any questions. And this was by far the most intimate keynote address ever. So glad we got to meet each other. So.
Where do you want to evolve it or take it next, in your opinion?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think, if you look at the end-to-end candidate experience, kind of what we did here just on the top of the funnel, I feel applies to lots and lots of other stops along that end-to-end journey, right? And how can we take this sort of, proactive, always pipelining kind of mentality and bring it to, some of the other groups within the HR spectrum, right? But even here, there's so much potential. I mean, I was at a couple of weeks ago, I was at IM Phenom, and they do a really good job sort of showing that end-to-end experience and walk you through all the different modules. And yeah, there could be a world, right, where a lot of the outreaches, a lot of the initial dialogues are all automated, right? So instead of us reaching out to people, we could have a really smart, very personalized AI agent reach out to candidates and actually have a conversation with them, right? And they demoed it. It was pretty cool. It was a little clunky, but you can see the vision. 100%, right? And again, the conversations that are super fun to have is really when somebody is engaged and interested and they apply, or when you, again, on the other end, speak to the business and the hiring managers. What do you need? And why do you need this person? And are you sure? And that's way more fun, I feel. So I think there's just a lot of opportunity to automate more and get us sooner to those moments, that human moments that really matter. Awesome.
Wow, how many countries do you have teams in? Like your talent?
Yeah. So when I 4.5 years ago when I started, it was just me, and now we have 20 members, So most of our hiring is in North America, LAC, lots of activity in Pune and India, Dublin, across Europe. So we have, our team is pretty spread out. The nice thing about this is that we don't really need to have somebody in every single location. There's a good amount of, as long as there's a good amount of time zone overlap, we can have team members really covering the globe. But yeah, most of our members are either in the US. We have one person in Costa Rica. We have several people in Europe between Dublin and Prague. We have a couple of people in Pune. So
Does Mastercard outsource their call call center people, or do you staff those?
That's a great question. So I would imagine there's probably some outsourcing for certain use cases, but I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you. But I would,
But you don't recruit, like your team doesn't ever have to recruit?
So we have recruited for our call center, but the call center that we have recruited for is actually an HR support group. And many of those people are employees of Mastercard.
Gotcha.
But on the payment processing side, are there call centers that support us? I would imagine yes, but
That's a lot of recruiting.
yes, 100%, 100%. And like, again, keep in mind, this is a little bit. This may not work for all positions, right? Like if you're, for example, I don't know, if you're like Starbucks, right, and you are recruiting baristas and a lot of part-time workers, like, would this work? Maybe not as well, right? Because it's just a little bit of like most of the hiring that we have done at Mastercard through this team is, software engineers, salespeople, product people, consultants, things like that.
One more quick question on this. So 2 million members in your talent community, right? Have you been able to significantly reduce your sourcing spend, like LinkedIn, Indeed, and reliance on any of the sourcing platforms as a result of your talent community?
Yeah, great question. So here's the thing. No. But the reason we need LinkedIn is because this talent community needs to get fed constantly with new leads. And even though the talent community is working well, we can't stop using LinkedIn. But it has, the ROI is being seen in other ways. So for example, generating this many hires automatically puts us in a position where we are operating way more optimized and leanly as a GTA function overall. But it would make me very nervous to cut off LinkedIn.
Got it.
Yeah.